Today's webinar is from Barefoot Technologies along with Intracoastal, and we're going to be talking about lead form generating with Conrad O'Connell. Take it away, Conrad.
Thank you very much. Hope you guys are all doing pretty good today. I know we don't have a lot of time, so I just kind of want to just hop in. I don't really have any slides because slides are good, but they're very theoretical. I'd rather show you some really like tactical examples of kind of what we're doing with our web designs today, and our kind of the experience that we have and the iterations that we've kind of gone through to reach the point that we're at today, as far as like all the different contacts and contact form options we have and like the way that leads come in. So, you know, I spend a lot of time in the SEO end here at Intercoastal Net Designs. So that's kind of the way I think about most people coming into your site isn't always directly from your homepage. Sometimes they end up on a page like this. And this is a client that we have, Vantage Resort Realty. They're in Ocean City, Maryland, and they are a Barefoot client as well. So we kind of work together on this site launch. And I think if you ask Lance, I think he would have some pretty positive feedback about Barefoot and about the site and how it's kind of worked well together. So I just kind of want to run through like how we kind of think about the lead generation, the different ways that it could come into, you know, you could get a lead into your kind of system wherever you're using to track that, like the different contact points that you have and that kind of thing. So I've kind of done a pretend search here for Sunset Island Vacation Rentals. That's kind of a subsection of Ocean City. And what I really want to do here, though, is just dig into a detail page. And this is kind of where the magic happens and really what I want to focus on today. So when you're on one of these detail pages, I mean, you know, you can look in your Google Analytics and kind of filter this stuff out to see if it's the case for you. But for the most part, we feel that this page right here is probably one of the most important ones on the whole website, because this is where someone's going to search for availability. They're going to look at the pictures, the calendar, all the different kind of amenities and features that they have. And in our mind, this is really where people decide if they're going to book or not. So if they've made it all the way to this page, you know, maybe they went through your home page and your results page and all this kind of stuff. But once they get to this point, they're going to have a pretty, you know, this is kind of a decision-making point. So you need to have all the information that they're looking for here, so you don't really end up with, you know, leads that you kind of, not that you don't want, but just you want to make sure that you're giving them information so that they don't have to ask a question that it may take you a little while to get back to them, and really all they wanted to know was, you know, is it pet friendly or not? So in this particular case, we'll just kind of run through here. It has this whole description here. Of course, we all know the tricky part is not everyone's going to read the whole description, so you kind of got to make it, you know, meaty enough that it provides good information for people, but not so long that someone just is overwhelmed and doesn't bother to read it. So that's kind of why we have broken out the amenities and some different things into these headings, just so it's easier to scan for people, so they're not sitting there trying to read like, you know, an 800 just block of text, word block of text. They're kind of going through here and they can scan and be like, oh, okay, it has this feature, it has this feature. Excuse me, because one of the most common things that we hear from people is they just get asked like the same questions kind of over and over again, and it's just very, very time consuming for your reservationists to go through and answer questions that they've already answered, you know, a dozen times about the same property, and not all those converted to bookings, and it's always very time consuming for your reservationists to go through and do that. So, I mean, you know, not that you want to reduce the number of leads coming in, but you do probably want to reduce the frustration of the user who's trying to sit here and make a decision. You don't want to make it hard for them to get the information they need. So I think the first part of kind of getting more leads is making sure that you're getting good leads in these contact forms, and you're not just getting people who are, you know, just kind of asking silly questions. And I think that starts with a good description. So once you've kind of got past that, we kind of have this broken out as well, like the whole amenities field. This is everything that kind of Barefoot is feeding us there. We're just kind of outputting it. Sometimes if it isn't covered in this description, we find that people will scroll down here and they'll look and be like, you know, it has this many, you know, it has these features or it doesn't have this feature. So that's always good information to have for people. But I'll start kind of at the bottom here and maybe work my way back up. So the recent reviews about this property, this is key if you want people to kind of, if they're looking on this page and they want to see the kind of leads that they're getting, they may click on here. It has a little form field for people to fill out their first name, last name, where they're from. There is an email form here, but it's not really a lead generation tool, because typically the only people who are leaving a review here, you kind of already have their email because they stayed with you. But in our system, you do have the ability to capture that information and do something with it if you want to. Maybe put those people on a different email list that you send out the next year, knowing that they've already stayed with you. So this is just kind of a place to gather emails. I wouldn't call it the best place. Kind of like what we were talking about before, question and answers about this property. Maybe there's something you want to say about this property that you maybe didn't put in Barefoot or didn't put in the description. So when you pull it through on your website, you're not quite able to look at it. This is a really popular field just depending on the area that we found. Like we have, in this particular case on the Vantage website, we don't find quite as many leads coming in with this particular area where it says question and answers concerning this property. But it is a really good lead generation tool because someone could have the ability here to go in, they drop their first name, last name, email, their question, they submit the question, and then we're obviously taking that email field out of here and putting it in to our kind of marketing that we do later on as far as email sends and that kind of stuff. So it is a way to get emails. You know, we kind of have a multitude of options on these pages for good reason. I think the more kind of choices that people have or the more ways people have to put in their email, you're going to have a better success rate of actually capturing them or gathering them. One thing that we've learned is that if we, at first we just had the one form down here and we had the one form right here, and that was good. That was good. We got some leads that way. But when we went down and added, another form and made the button like really, really big, we saw a little increase in leads when we started doing that. So then we added another field, the whole recent reviews thing. And we see that once there's a bunch of reviews in there, the property tends to do a little bit better in terms of its booking percentage. So just all these little features that really add up, that kind of all impact the number of people who actually want to come through and fill out the lead form and actually get into your system. So these are pretty good. I can't share exact numbers just because I don't want to share without Lance's approval, but in terms of the percentage of leads that come from the different forms on the page, this one is the second most popular here, the kind of question and answers concerning this property. But the most popular one, and the one that we've kind of always had, is actually this form right here. So where it says, want to know more about this listing, this one's just kind of a generic. There's not really any like hard information that we're asking from people in this form, but we find that because people expect it or they just want it to be there, this one typically does pretty well because this is just what they look for. They look for these fields, they look for this particular location of the form, and they actually go through and fill this one out most frequently. So if you're only going to have one on your website and that's all your kind of web company is able to deliver for you, I would definitely recommend that this is the one that you work on, because when we go through and track where the leads come from, this is the most popular source for lead generation. So this one's really simple. There's no modal pop-up or anything like that. But just first name, last name, email. There's our lead collection right there. All these fields are required. And then if someone had a question or a comment or whatever they may have, they go in there and fill out the form. These are, in this case, they're all fed into like a lead tracking system that we have built out in particular for this client, but kind of wherever they're going, that's maybe a slightly different topic, but depending on where they're going, they're all going to feed into kind of the same system, but we're talking more about how you can get more of these. So one thing is, make sure this is kind of at the top of the page. You don't necessarily want to stuff all your lead forms at the very bottom of the page, just because more people may not reach the bottom of the page. We do have some down here, and they work pretty well, but this one may get the most just because of its positioning on the page, where it's right near the top next to the photos, so people can scroll through and they can see this particular field. One thing that we've tested a little bit, and we've seen some different results, but for the most part this always holds true, is this button copy here kind of has a positive action on it. So it doesn't just say like submit, or it doesn't just say like, click here or something like that. It actually has an action that people are taking. So in this case, they're requesting more information. So when they click that, it's just kind of a little psychological thing that we use on these pages to make more people want to click on it. We've tested like different copy on this particular button right here, and we found that this one works pretty well. It fits on the button well, and it gets people to click on it. So up above this is kind of another, again, the more kind of forms you put on the page in our experience, the more kind of opportunity you have for picking up new leads. So I mentioned that this one is the most popular. The review one down here is the second most popular. This form up here, the send to a friend one, is actually the third most popular in this particular client's case of actually collecting new email addresses. And there's also kind of an interesting way to collect friends' email addresses here, which you may not be able to directly market to, but you can use it in a different way, and I'll give you tips about that here in a second. So if, this is pretty common if someone's on a detail page and they're looking and they want to share this particular property that they have with a friend, or maybe with, someone they're going on vacation with, a mother, a dad, a husband, a wife, whatever the case may be, you can go put in their first name, their last name, their email field. These are fields that you can use and you can market to this person. But what you can't do is you can't just take the friend's email here and start to send marketing messages to them because they were not the ones that opted in. So we've talked to like different email service providers about what constitutes the ability for someone to like collect their email and use it. So these people are expressing an interest and saying, okay, yeah, interested in this. You can add them onto the marketing email list that you may send out every 2 weeks or something like that. But if someone's going in here and putting in their friend's email, they didn't necessarily agree or opt into your list, so you can't send like your normal promotional emails to them. But what you can do, we've done this before and had some okay success with it, it's just something that you can try, is you can take all these friends' email addresses, collect them up, and then put them into a custom audience on Facebook, and then target those email addresses if you want with advertisements. So that's enough kind of information that you can use from the friends' email addresses to go in, put them into a Facebook custom audience, and then what Facebook does in that case is it takes the email addresses and then tries to match them up with Facebook logins, and then you can target ads against those people. So maybe you want to do that and kind of test and see if you can snag some of these friends' email addresses and get them over to the Vantage website or whatever website you have and try to get them to opt in that way. That way you can add them to your kind of marketing list and send it that way. But it's also cool functionality. Like instead of, if I want to share this with, let's just say I'm going on vacation with my dad or my mom or something like that, and I wanted to share this with them, I may be able to copy this URL. I'd have to go to my email and open it and send it to them. It's just kind of a pain. And we think that just adding these little features where people can just quickly click and pop into different fields and send the email out, it's just a little bit easier to kind of convince someone to do that. They don't have to leave the page. They don't have to copy any URLs or anything like that. When they hit send a friend, it sends like a very nicely formatted email, and it pulls a nice picture in here so they can kind of see what the property looks like before they even click on the email link. So just kind of a nice experience for the guest on the page, and then whoever they send it to, it's easy for them to go through and look at the property. So it's always helpful. We kind of asked them to share options. If someone were to share it, they would come back and they could see this particular property page, and this would it just pulls the URL. So depending on what property page you're on, there's not an easy way to track that in terms of lead generation. I don't think it drives a ton of leads. The ones that drive a lot more are these different contact forms we have embedded throughout the page. So let me go back for a second, but really that's kind of the most common way that you're going to get these different leads is, you're going to have these different forms throughout the page. Like we have 4 forms on this page, or 4 different contact points that all kind of have a different goal. But, at the end of the day, we're kind of looking to collect that email address. And we know that once someone kind of opts in with their email address, we kind of have them, not for life, but we have them, until they disagree to stop seeing our marketing messages. So that may mean that they're on our kind of house promotional or newsletter list that goes out maybe every 2 weeks or every month, just depending on the season. We kind of have that email address, and we can, of course, work it in the short term and try to get that person to convert into a sale. People are going to look at a lot of different websites probably before they end up booking. I kind of don't care how great your website is. People aren't just going to trust necessarily the first one. I know when I go on vacation, I look at least 3 or 4 different websites, even if I'm confident that I've kind of found a good deal or a good price for, accommodations or vacation rental. I'm going to go and look at different websites. So the way that you're going to be able to bring people back and get them back is if you have something that, encourages them to go back. So there's a couple different ways to do that. One being like retargeting or remarketing ads. So if someone leaves the website, they go over to Facebook and they see your ad, that's a way to get people back. But really one of the best ways that we think is to send these little one-to-one emails. So if someone puts in here, they're interested in it, and you notice that they haven't booked, we have kind of automated scripts and stuff like that set up to email those people, and we say, oh, you haven't booked yet. Would you like to look at these other similar properties? So we kind of have some functionality like that built in. But really, there's no other marketing channel or marketing, message where someone's basically giving you permission to let them to basically opt into your marketing messages. And for the most part, you can kind of get away with being a little more promotional with your email marketing that you collect on these pages than you can be in other marketing channels. If you were on your Facebook page every day talking about your specials or your promotions, that may kind of annoy the people who have liked your page. But it's kind of common and it's acceptable for you to have an email list that you send a lot of promotional offers to, as long as you're not doing it too frequently. And people kind of expect that in their inboxes. So they kind of go in there to buy. They go in there to get more information to take an action, whereas if you're on something like Facebook or just seeing like a Google remarketing or retargeting ad, it's kind of a nice brand reminder, but it may not drive the same kind of action that collecting emails do. So let me go back a step and let me talk about a few maybe less popular but still valuable kind of email collection techniques or tactics. So if you have a details page like this, let me go back to the home page here real quick. It just depends on how you may want to look at it, but we have like different embedded contact forms throughout the site. So in this case, you can sign up for deals down here. In our experience, this one doesn't convert very much, but it's also pretty low friction. Like they may not necessarily be looking to book right away, but they're just on the site and they're looking around. So if someone drops an email in here, you may just add them to kind of your normal marketing message list. You may not have necessarily a lot to go on as far as like the property they were looking at or anything like that. So, we don't get a ton of email signups here, but the ones we do, we find it's worth adding the form enough that it's, it's still valuable to do that. So if someone, let me go back here and we'll dig in the contact page as well. So in this particular case, they have a couple of locations. That's why all these addresses are up here. But you may end up getting form fields filled out from this contact us page. Again, I could dig in their analytics real quick and see, but we find that this page also doesn't generate quite as many email leads as those detail pages. That's kind of why I started there. Those are just so important. But people could come through here and they could put in their name, their email address, all that kind of stuff. And if they submit that form there, that's kind of another lead capture place that you have. So let me hop out for a second. Let me hop to a different site. This is Grand Strand Resorts. They're in North Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. And this is something a little bit different that we're doing with them just because they wanted to test it out. And we like to test out new things and see how they work. So what this is like a little modal pop-up. I'm sure you've probably seen these before if you've been kind of browsing on the internet anytime recently. Some of them are really big. This one's not too big. But this one here it pops up after you viewed, I think I don't know if it's 3 or 4 different property detail pages. So these are people who have been on the site for a little bit. They've kind of engaged. They may have done a search or they may have done 2 or 3 searches. They're trying to find, the right property or the right unit for them. And once they view a handful, I think 3 or 4, they get this modal pop-up form. And he rents mostly condos, so it says condo deals, get an extra $25 off our already low rates. If you add your email, we send you a discount code. So this is really taking it to the next step. Instead of just having like these kind of passive forms that I was showing you before that do pretty well, but they're going to only generate so many leads, you're kind of being a little more kind of in people's face about it, I guess, where you're being pretty direct and saying like, hey, we have a lot of deals and promotions that we'll send you. All you need to do is give us your email, and in exchange, we'll send you $25 off. So in this case, we're using the Barefoot option that they have to add the promo codes in, and that works really well. And my understanding from our client over there, Todd, is that he's just added in a Barefoot promo code for, I don't remember exactly what the promo code is, but it's something like Save 25, and it pretty much just stays in that system. He doesn't it's not like a promotion that runs, from a specific date. And then once people put in their email here, of course, they're added to the kind of house marketing list that we have. So I can share some general numbers in here, where before we had this kind of modal pop-up in here, we were getting maybe a few hundred emails a month just from all the different property detail pages and all the different forms that I showed you on the last site. But once we added this, that number tripled. So instead of just getting, we can kind of see in analytics how many times this thing is actually firing and how many people are entering it. It's a pretty decent percentage. It's I think somewhere around 20-30% of the time that this thing actually pops up, people actually come through and fill out their email address here. So it wasn't really high effort to add this particular form into the website and kind of get it coded up. I don't know how your margins are. If you really want to get $25 off, there maybe are other promotions that you could do that aren't quite as direct, but this one has worked really well because it's so simple. You put in your email and you get $25 off. So not only can you have all these other things cooking as far as, send to a friend, more about this listing, these other 2 lead forms down here, you can also kind of be a little more aggressive if you want to be with your email collection. And, in our experience, you can almost double or sometimes triple the number of leads that are coming in. Just in exchange for a promo code or something that you may have kind of offered people in the past to sign up anyways. Just by being more direct, you get actually a lot more leads from it. So that kind of covers the website end of it. I know it went pretty quick, but it was pretty specific as far as the different pages, where the leads come from, all that kind of stuff. There's kind of a whole nother side of it that we deal with as far as like leads that you get from other places, like all your all your VRBO leads, if you get them from there, and your HomeAway leads and FlipKey and all these other places that you may have. Our experience there is that the more organized you can get with that stuff, the better. Like we were talking to a client here recently who just had like one Google Doc that they were using for every lead that they were working, and all the reservationists were in that same Google Doc, kind of looking and reviewing all the time to see like the status of it. It just sounded like a nightmare to me because they were sitting there, manually adding in these emails as they were coming into like this main reservation, reservations at email address. And they were just digging through and copy and pasting all this information back and forth. So kind of a whole nother topic is what you do with these leads after you get them. But really the most popular places to get them in the first place on your website are just having a lot of contact forms on there, a lot of different options for people. And then maybe considering experimenting with different things like modal pop-ups and that kind of stuff to get some more email addresses as well. So I think we said we have 30 minutes with questions, and I know we started a little bit late, but there's a little bit of time. So if it's all right with you, I'm willing to do some questions if that's okay with you. If anybody has any. And I don't think you guys are muted, so if you wanna shout it out, you should be able to.
This is Alex. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. How are you doing, Alex?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Hey, so I actually had a call during a small portion of this, so I may have missed this if you said it. But my question is, I see what this looks like on the vacationer end, but how does it look on the internal end when you receive? Can you see where each contact form came from, and what does that look like?
Yeah, so in this particular case, so for this website, it's going to feed into that like lead tracking system that we built, and it would tell you it would tell you what form they filled out, and it would tell you the property detail page that they were on. And once someone puts in their email on this particular website, so this is kind of how the ICND built websites are set up, we can actually go in and you can look in the lead tracking system to see like what searches they did, what properties they looked at before they filled out the lead form, what dates they were putting in, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, you can get a lot of information about someone once they give you their email address, because we know kind of what properties they were looking at and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, you're able to see all that information.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Conrad, this is Ann Mayhew, and is that lead tracking an add-on from your website?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not in the default. We kind of have some base things built in the default that all work with Barefoot. Like some of the things, like all the lead forms, that the way they look now, those are kind of the default across all the websites. But the lead tracking tool that we have is pretty customized, because we have to go through and set it up a little bit differently for Barefoot, and just to make sure it all works properly for your particular website. So it is an additional add-on fee. Yes.
Okay.
Is there any other questions that anyone had? If you guys do have anything that crosses your mind, maybe later, or you're watching a recording of this and you're not live, that's okay. You can email me at coconnell@icnd.net, and I'd be happy to get you guys more information or answer your questions. If you just had something that pops into your head, just feel free to email you, and I'll do my best to get back to you.
Great. Thanks so much.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you, Conrad. Thank you very much.
All right. You guys have a good one, okay?